Hey y'all, it's your friendly neighborhood therapist. So listen, let's get into some updates on the political front. Now, we are only 9 days into this travesty of an administration, all right? And already a lot of things have happened. That man won't put this pen down, and executive order after executive order is being signed, and a lot of people don't fully understand what that means. We think that this means that all these things are getting changed right away and all that, and that's not what it means. So I want us to take a minute and breathe. I said that before. We got to breathe. We cannot be outraged 100% of the time. You cannot think clearly in a state of rage. All right. And we need to be able to think clearly. Now, that being said, I know that myself and so many others, particularly Black women, said that we are resting. But here's the thing with that. No, this is not our mess to fix. It is not. Period, point blank. However, it is very difficult to sit back and watch everything burn when you are going to be burned in the process. A bunch of us who did the correct thing, notice I said correct thing, not right thing, okay? Because another thing a lot of people did when they voted in November is they tried to vote with their morality versus voting for what was best. Okay. My good sis Danielle made a post today and said it so eloquently that I'm just going to read y'all this small segment. All you had to do, to the voters out there who voted any other way, whether they voted third party or whatever, all you had to do was remember that voting is an act of harm reduction, not a pledge of blind allegiance. I didn't fully like everything Kamala had to say. I don't think it was the best ran campaign simply because they didn't give her the time. But here's what, just like when people come to a rehab to get off of a drug, sometimes as opposed to taking them completely off the drug and them going cold turkey, you do something called harm reduction. If you shoot up every day of the week, twice a day, if I can get you down to 3 days, twice a day, that's good. That's harm reduction. You are doing less harm to your body than you were doing. Folks in this country don't seem to understand that less harm is best. We will always be harmed by politics in this country. We will always be harmed by what politicians decide. It will never be okay for everyone. That's just the facts. But there are less harmful ways to go. And right now, I think some people are seeing that they chose something that caused us to be in more harm. Would you rather be in less harm or more harm? I mean, you're going to be in harm either way, but do you want less or do you want more? Well, right now, y'all fucking around and finding out that you're getting more. And it's of no one's fault but your own for either voting for him or voting third party. Now, let's be clear, I don't blame third party voters or non voters, but what I will say is, what Danielle said, and I'm going to put it in my own words. What you thought was that everybody else would save the day, that your vote didn't count, that y'all know how I feel about voting. I don't feel like anybody should be forced to vote. I don't care. I will never feel that way. And I also would never blame third party voters. But what I will say is, y'all made a mistake in thinking that you would be carried by the majority. That didn't happen. And now look where we are. That's neither here nor there. That ain't even what I came on here to talk about. Listen, so, something that has occurred within this first 9 days, a lot of things have occurred, but this just came across to me because I got a text message about it. I got a text message that said Pride Month has been taken off of the EO, the military calendar. Now, we have already discussed the fact that they removed courses about the Tuskegee Airmen in the Air Force, right? We already talked about that. Did I already mention that to y'all? Yeah. Anyway, another thing that happened, and I'm going to be reading from an article, and y'all, when I read from articles, I have looked and tried to find the most unbiased, objective article possible with resources. If you want them, I'll give them to you. I'm not about to sit here and call them off. Just not doing it. But anyway, the Trump-Vance administration has removed LGBTQ and HIV resources from government websites. Now, before you get all in a tizzy, they did the same thing in 2017. Trump did this exact same thing right after inauguration in 2017. So, anyway, they have eliminated nearly all LGBTQ and HIV focused content and resources from whitehouse.gov and key federal agency websites. That's according to GLAAD in a press release on last Tuesday. So, prior to that man's inauguration on last Monday, GLAAD had cataloged more than 50 links to LGBTQ and HIV related content on White House web pages and on websites from the State Department and the Departments of Education, Justice, Defense, Health and Human Services, and Labor, along with other agencies like the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. But as of last week on Tuesday, GLAAD specifically found that terms like lesbian, bisexual, gay, transgender, sexual orientation, and gender identity and LGBTQ are no longer accessible on whitehouse.gov, while some LGBTQ specific pages have been taken down from sites for the Centers for Disease Control, Department of State, and more. Among the pages that are no longer accessible on whitehouse.gov are an equity report from July 2021, a fact sheet with information on expanding access to HIV prevention and treatment from March of 2024, and information about Pride Month. Among the entries on federal agency websites that are no longer available are 94 entries for LGBTQ rights that were once published on the State Department site and dozens of links to information and resources on LGBTQI plus policy that were once available on the Department of Labor website. Now, another thing to bring up, and I have a point to what I'm sharing with y'all, and I'll get to it at the end. Another thing to bring up is the specific executive order concerning birthright. This is the order that the immigration stuff is coming under, where ICE can come in and snatch people right now, and why so many of Latino Americans are crashing out and crying even though they voted for this man, because now they see your ass ain't exempt. You could get snatched, or someone you know could get snatched, and you did this. You did this. But on any note, a fascinating discovery about this birthright situation and immigration and deporting folks. Mind you, side note, a judge did temporarily block his recent birthright executive order after saying it was unconstitutional. But anyway, Native Americans, or indigenous people, they gained citizenship in 1924. Now, how you have to grant someone citizenship who was already on this land is fascinating to me in the first place, but now the Justice Department cites their status as a legal analogy to justify Trump's executive order in court. They argue that birth in the United States does not by itself entitle a person to citizenship. The person must also be subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. And they raised a case from 1884 that found members of Indian tribes are not subject to the jurisdictions of the United States and are not constitutionally entitled to citizenship. They are literally trying to say that Native Americans are not U.S. citizens. Trump's administration argues natives are not citizens because they hold allegiance to their tribal nations. So my point with bringing this up, LGBTQ, Native Americans, my point with bringing this up is don't be surprised when they come at Black folks. Because what this administration wants is to make America white again. Yep, to make America white again. Because, honey, you don't want anybody else to be visible. You don't want anybody here. You trying to get rid of everybody. Don't be shocked if they tell you that Black History Month is canceled next month. I know for some people that sounds like a stretch, but does it really, given what they are exhibiting right now? Y'all didn't read Project 2025, huh? Or didn't listen to some of us when we told y'all what was in Project 2025. See, this is what I mean. But I still don't want y'all to be in outrage all the time. I just want to keep y'all aware of what's going on. I also want y'all to try to remain as calm as possible, because here's what. There is no point in residing in fear right now. Even with all that I just said, fear is not going to get us anywhere. You can't make rational decisions out of fear. You can't move correctly out of fear. So at the very least, be aware, be cognizant, keep an understanding of what's going on. Also understand that all these things being signed, they're not going to happen right away. That doesn't mean they won't happen. Just like the federal freeze actually did happen. The federal funding freeze actually did happen. Just like the DEI thing actually did happen, which when the DEI thing happened, I distinctly remember saying that this is not going to just affect Black and brown people. This is going to affect anybody who is not white, man, heterosexual, cisgender. That's still true. But the more you start to see the things that are being signed and that he is trying to get done, the more you start to see that this is meant to make this a white world, a white America. That Make America Great Again slogan means take this back to when white people had the power, the control, the majority, the numbers, the everything. And I don't see how people aren't seeing that. So if you are anything outside of white, especially white male, heterosexual, cisgender, I don't see how you could be okay with this. Like cognitive dissonance can't be this bad. It just can't be for you to not see what's going on and the reason why. But if that is the case and you still can't see, then I feel like you won't see until it directly affects you, and it will. Oh, it will. It's going to directly affect each and every person, or at the very least, somebody that you really, really love. And then maybe you'll understand why this wasn't the best idea, why this wasn't the less harmful idea. Proper planning prevents poor performance. For a lot of people, it feels like we don't have a lot of time to properly plan. We don't have time. They already trying to do too much and we don't have time. But at the end of the day, you can't rush into these types of situations and trying to fix them. And let's understand that it is not going to be other politicians that help us here. Like y'all know, I'm not a part of the Democratic Party. I don't subscribe to any party because they both bullshit to me. They are literally opposite wings on the same bird. But at the end of the day, things are probably going to get much worse before they get better. That's just how stuff usually works in these types of scenarios. And honestly, this possibly could have been our last truly free election. I, like I'm not trying to make folks any more worried or nervous than they are, but we do have to be realistic, which is what a lot of people weren't seemingly in November is realistic. However, at this point, whatever happens is going to happen. And we have to be prepared for what we need to do going forward. Part of me is elated that those who chose him are going to fuck around and find out and are currently in that space of finding out, a lot of them. But again, if everything is burning, so many of us who chose correctly are going to burn too. I'll keep y'all updated. Y'all keep me updated with things you hear if you don't hear me talk about it. And we'll go from here. I'm tired of all of it. I am taking my rest here and there. Y'all see me hopping on here talking about this too much, but I do want to keep us at the forefront of what's happening. And I want us to understand the sole reason behind all of it. The slogan should have been and always has meant make America white again. All right, y'all. Have a beautiful, wonderful rest of the day, and I will holler at y'all later.